Somewhere in the Japanese countryside, on a night with no wind, the old people say you should pray you never hear a faint ringing in your ears. Because in the darkness, something enormous may already be looking down at you. It is taller than the tallest tree, taller than a temple gate, a skeleton 15 times the height of a grown man, its empty eye sockets glowing dull red, its jaw clacking in the cold. Its name is the Gashadokuro, the starving skeleton. And of all the monsters in Japanese folklore, few are as quietly horrifying because of what it is actually made from. The Gashadokuro is not one creature. It is thousands. It is built from the bones of people who died of starvation or fell in war and were never buried. Their bodies left to rot in the open, their names forgotten. In old Japan, this happened more than anyone wants to admit. Famines swept the land again and again. Battles ended with fields of the dead. And when no one came to lay those bodies to rest, something began to gather. The legend says the rage and grief of all those forgotten dead did not fade. It pooled, it thickened, and over years, the loose bones began to pull together, drawn by that shared resentment, into one towering body. The result is a giant made of countless human skeletons fused into a single frame. Every rib, every finger, every hollow skull was once a person who died alone and unmourned. It roams after midnight, they say, drifting across the countryside on silent feet. And here is the part that has kept people awake for centuries. You cannot see it coming. The Gashadokuro is invisible until the moment it strikes. A lone traveler on a dark road hears only that faint ringing, growing louder in the ears, like distant bells that no one else can hear. By the time you understand what the ringing means, a hand the size of a house has already closed around you. And the monster does what its hunger demands. It bites off the traveler's head and adds their bones to its own. That was the terror behind it. In a time before electric light, when villages sat isolated in total darkness, the idea that death itself could be assembled from the neglected dead was not just a scary story. It was a warning. Bury your dead properly. Say the prayers. Honor the bones. Because a body abandoned did not simply disappear. It waited. It gathered. And one night, it might come walking back, enormous and furious. Because almost nothing can stop it, the old stories offered only one thin hope. A sacred Shinto ward, an Ofuta charm, blessed at a shrine. Hold it up, and the giant might turn away. Might. But most versions of the tale are blunt about your odds. If the Gashadokuro has found you on an open road at night, you are already gone. There is no outrunning something whose single step crosses a field. If this is your first eerie story from us, take a second to subscribe. We tell the dark, strange, and unforgettable stories of Japan every single day, and you will not want to miss what comes next. Now, here is where the legend touches real history. The most famous image of a giant skeleton in Japan comes from a 19th century woodblock print by the artist Utagawa Kuniyashi. In it, a towering skeleton tears through a palace curtain, summoned by a sorceress. That single haunting image burned itself into the Japanese imagination and shaped how people pictured the monster forever after. The sorceress was said to be the daughter of a real rebel, Tara no Masakado, a warrior beheaded by the state. Grief and vengeance summoning the dead, drawn straight from real bloodshed. Even the art was rooted in true tragedy. Strangely, the name Gashadokuro itself is fairly modern. It seems to have crystallized in the 20th century, as older tales of restless bones and giant skeletons were gathered under one chilling title. Which means this monster grew the same way its body did. Fragments of much older fears, from famine, from war, from the shame of the unburied, slowly assembling into one complete, terrible shape. And the fears were real. Japan endured famines that killed tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, of people. In the worst years, whole villages emptied, and there was simply no one left to bury the fallen. Imagine surviving one of those winters. Imagine walking a road past the bodies of neighbors you could not save. The Gashadokuro was the nightmare that grew from that guilt, given bones, and a hunger that never ends. That is what makes it linger. It is not a demon from some other world. It is us. It is what happens when the living forget the dead, when suffering is left unspoken and unhonored. So the story carried a rule, quiet but absolute. Tend to the departed. Give them their rights. Never leave a person to rot in the dark, because the dark keeps count. Even today, some travelers in rural Japan will tell you, half joking and half not, that if your ears start ringing on an empty road at night, you should not stop to listen. You should walk faster. Because folklore like this survives for a reason. It taps into something older than reason itself, a primal certainty that the unburied dead are never truly gone, only waiting. And if the legend is right, the Gashadokuro is still out there, still wandering, still growing. Every forgotten body, every unmarked grave, every soul that dies alone and unmourned adds one more bone to the giant. Which raises the darkest question of all. If this monster is built from those the world abandoned, then how many are still out there in the night? And just how tall has it grown by now? The old stories never answered that. They only left you with the ringing in your ears and the hope that tonight, it belongs to someone else.